السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى. أما بعد، يقول الله تبارك وتعالى في كلامه المجيد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: للرجال نصيب مما ترك الوالدان والأقربون وللنساء نصيب مما ترك الوالدان والأقربون مما قل منه أو كثر نصيبا مفروضا. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وبارك وسلم. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وبارك وسلم. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وبارك وسلم. My dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, today's topic is a topic that I'm probably going to regret, not because it is taboo, but because it demands so much detail, and 20 minutes will not do justice, but we are going to try and hit upon the major points of this topic, which is the laws of inheritance, the do's and don'ts, and the common mistakes that people make, and some misunderstandings that we have. First of all, the verse that I have recited in front of you is from Surah Nisa, Surah number 4, ayat number 7. Lirrijal, for the men, nasib. Nasib is a share, fixed share. Mimma tarakal walidani wal aqrabun, from what the parents and the near relatives have left of the wealth. And walin nisa, pay attention, walin nisa. This is a huge issue in some Muslim countries where we deprive, the daughters or the sisters are deprived. And Qur'an says, وَلِن نِسَاء, and for the exact same words, وَلِن نِسَاءِ نَصِيبٌ مِمَّا تَرَكَ الْوَالِدَانِ وَالْأَقْرَبُونَ, and for the woman, for the female, there is a share, nasib, in what the parents and the near relatives have left behind. مِمَّا قَلَّ مِنْهُ أَوْ كَثُرْ, whether the amount is small, the dying person left behind $10 or he left behind $1 million, it will be distributed. Nasibam mafruda, a fixed share, mandatory share, obligatory share, compulsory share for the heirs, for the designated heirs. Now, there is so much emphasis, nasibam mafruda, that we fail to sometimes understand that this share, whoever is a deserving heir, according to Qur'an, whoever is a deserving heir, this is their wealth. And if one of the heirs, being a bully or peer pressure, whatnot, devours someone else's share, this is haram wealth. He has unjustly, unrightfully devoured someone else's share. Sometimes the brothers, they say to their sister, what are you going to do with it? You don't need it, we'll take care of you. And then they unjustly take her share. This is haram wealth. There's many different forms of haram wealth. So much so that a person cannot forego his share. How is that? Let's say the mother says, you know what, your dad, he left behind this wealth. What am I going to do? I'm going to die in a few years. I'm an old lady. And it's eventually going to come to you anyways. She says to her children, it's eventually going to come to you, this wealth. I forego my share. Quran says, because nasibam mafruda means that she has to take possession, control of her share. Forego means what? Then what's going to happen to it? It's going to disappear into thin air? What do we do with that property? What do we do with that wealth? She has to take ownership, possession, control. Then she can give it to whoever she likes. And there is a safety valve in this also. Why? Because if one of the heirs is being pressured, being bullied, at least this is a safety valve, safety net, because that person, that daughter, will take possession of the share, and then she can give it to her brothers if she likes. So much so, it is their wealth, the deserving heirs, that when a person is in his illness. Death illness, let's say he has cancer and he's going to die in 12 years. That whole entire period of 12 years is not death illness, maradul maut. When the doctors give up and they say there's really nothing we can do for him now, and he is now in hospice care, or he's in his last few days or weeks at the hospital or at the home, that is maradul maut, death illness. Death illness has a different set of rules. This wealth now belongs to the heirs, even though he has not died. And if he says in his death illness, 2 days before he give this so much so to so and so, give so much to so and so, it's not yours. It's the property. The wealth has already started to shift into the ownership of the heirs. And on top of that, let me, as a footnote to this topic, it's not really part of this topic, but those who say that Islam is gender biased, then I have a question for you. If this person who is in his death illness gives talaq, 3 talaqs to his wife, the talaq is valid. Talaq will occur and she is no longer his wife, but Islam will step in and say, you know what? There is a pretty good chance, there's a fat chance that you gave this talaq simply to deprive your wife of her share in the inheritance. That's why the talaq is valid, but she, even though she's no longer your wife, she will still get a share. She will get her share. Why did he give talaq during his death illness? Was it to deprive her? She gets her share. So this is nasibam mafruda. Now what to do? Step 1, step 2, step 3. Step number 1 is to take care of the funeral expenses from the wealth of the deceased. I have had interactions with families where the siblings put it on each other. Oh, my sister will take care of it. My brother will. I'm like, I don't care who takes care of it as long as you write a check to UIC for the amount. So that's a family feud. It's better, you don't need to get embroiled in that family feud. The cost of the burial in Utah, it's not that bad, $4,000. In LA, Orange County, it's approximately $16,000 for a burial. Where will this cost come from? Who will pay for it? It will come out from the wealth of the deceased, number 1. Number 2, the second thing to take care of from the wealth that the deceased has left behind is any debts. We'll see, okay, after paying for his burial, is there any money left? His debts. Who does he owe? All of that will be taken care of. Then, step number 3, did he leave a wasiyah? Did he say 1/3 of my wealth? Because wasiyah will be executed up to 1/3. Up to 1/3, if he has left a wasiyah. So if someone dies and says, give Imam Shuaib 1/3, so I will get, alhamdulillah, 1/3. If he says, give Imam Shuaib 50%, are we going to give him 50%? No. You're still going to give him how much? 1/3, up to 1/3. If he does not have to leave any wasiyah, but if he does choose to leave a wasiyah, then it could be, if he loves cats, he can leave it for the cat shelter, whoever he likes. Those who are receiving a share, a Quranic share, I'm going to call it a Quranic share. Those who are receiving a Quranic share, the designated heirs, they cannot receive part of the wasiyah. Okay, because they already have a share. There is a way, there's no wasiyah for an heir. So maybe there's a distant uncle or third cousin and you want to leave him something, you can. He's not receiving a Quranic share. He's not a designated heir. He will get from the 1/3. Now, Quranic share, in that sense, you don't have a will. Will in the sense that you don't get to decide. You don't have the power. You cannot determine who gets how much. Quran has already done that. As a matter of fact, if we think for a second, when it comes to salat or saum or zakat or any of the tenets or principles or instructions in Islam, Qur'an is very general. Regarding zakat, Qur'an does not state how much to pay in zakat. Hadith will tell us. Qur'an does not state how many rakats in each prayer. Hadith will tell us. The details are in hadith. But when it comes to the laws, who will get how much, the laws of inheritance, Qur'an spells out in great depth and detail, 1/8, 1/6, 1/4, half, 1/3, who gets how much. That's a Quranic share. So you don't get to decide who gets how much. Okay, Qur'an will do that for you, either in all of the wealth or in 2/3 of the wealth if you have left a wasiyah for 1/3. Now we come to the big question. Is wasiyah fard? Is it mandatory? Is it compulsory? This, yes and no. Yes and no. No, wasiyah is not fard. Having a will is not fard, in the sense that the ayah in Surah Baqarah, which states that wasiyah is fard, kutiba, like kutiba alaykumus siyam, kutiba alaykum idha hadara ahadakumul maut, in taraka khayra al-wasiyah, that it is prescribed for you that when death approaches any one of you, if you have left any wealth behind, wasiyah is prescribed for you. That was before the Quranic shares were described in Surah Nisa, ayat number 11. Yusikumullahu fi awladikum lidhakari mithlu ḥظ الْأُنْثَيَيْنِ. Once those verses came describing exactly who gets how much, then wasiyah is not fard. But yes, it is fard from another perspective. If you are designating 1/3 for someone like Imam Shu'aib, then how is Imam Shu'aib going to get his 1/3 if you don't have a will? Right? Or the cat shelter, how will they get their 1/3 if you have not left a will? And second issue is Quranic shares. Your wealth is not going to be distributed according to Quranic shares unless you have left a will. Right? They will be distributed according to the law of the land. So unless all the heirs have enough taqwa, God-fearing, and they will do what is right, and greed does not set in. 9 out of 10 times greed sets in, and the more wealth the deceased is leaving behind, the more greedy the heirs are. Let's say they're all muttaqeen, God conscious, and they distribute it amongst themselves according to the Quranic shares, that's fine. But having a will ensures that. And what is a will? You can't just sit at home and write a piece of paper, he gets this and he gets that. No. It won't hold up in court. Even if you write in your will that it should be distributed according to Sharia, according to Surah Nisa, ayat number 11, and it is a legal document, it will not hold up in court. Why? Because you have to spell out who will get how much. Now, some common misunderstandings or mistakes. Number one, and I cannot emphasize this enough, is clarity of ownership. Who owns what? And I've mentioned this in zakat also, because who will give zakat depends who owns the wealth. If you don't have clarity of ownership, and 99% of the time we do not have clarity of ownership. So, let's say the husband is bringing home, I'm going to give you 3 scenarios. Husband is bringing home 100% of the wealth, and wife is bringing in 0 income. By default, if he does not say anything, by default, he owns 100% of the assets. He owns 100% of the house, he owns 100% of the car, he owns 100% of the furniture, because it was bought through his income. Second, you have done such a good job at raising the children. Yeah, right. you have done such a good job at the tarbiyah, at raising the kids. 50% is yours. Now she owns how much? 50%, because he said it. This is called clarity. Whose name is on the deed does not count in the eyes of Allah. Oh, yes. If what is on paper has no relevance, that's according to the law of the land. If a person, let me give you an example, if a person gives talaq, 3 talaqs, and he is still legally married, and they file their taxes, married filing jointly, is he considered married in the eyes of Allah? No. Legally he's married. On paper he's married. According to the state of Utah, he's married. But are they married? No. What are they doing? They're committing zina. They're not husband and wife. Similarly, what is on the deed does not matter. What you say is what matters. Third scenario is that he, for example, is bringing 70% of the income and she is bringing 30% of the income. In this case, by default, if they don't say anything, he owns 70% of the house and everything, and she owns 30%. Fair and square. Unless he says, dear wife, you have done such a good job, mashallah, at raising the kids, you own 50%. Even though you're bringing 30% of the income, you own 50%. Now she owns 50%. See how that works? It's simple, but hardly anyone has clarity of ownership. Everything, down to the spoon and fork, who owns it? Who owns it? Now, how the wealth is going to be distributed is a little bit more tricky, because according to Quranic shares, everyone has the designated heirs, they have a share, 1/3, 1/5, 1/6. But how exactly are you going to implement the will? That's an issue. You can't just simply say 1/6 of this house is yours, 1/8 of this house is yours, 1/4 of this house. There's 2 ways. There's actually 3 ways. One is a trust, which is more complicated from an Islamic perspective. The 2 simple ways, not exactly simple, it's a little bit of a hassle, but the 2 clear-cut ways is that you liquidate the asset and you distribute the cash. So let's say he has not left behind a wife, wife died before he did, and he has 1 son and 1 daughter. Son gets how much? 2/3. Daughter gets 1/3. So now the house, you do an appraisal, a neutral appraisal, and the appraisal comes out at 300,000. If you were to sell this house today on the open market, then you would sell it for 300,000. The brother says to his sister, I own 2/3 of this house. So you know what? Your share is 100,000. I will pay you 100,000. What do? You buy out the heirs. So either you liquidate the asset, you sell it, and you distribute the cash, or one of the heirs buys out the other heirs. Quranic shares. People again ask, can I write a will? There's one more issue that I need to mention when it comes to will. Will can change. If you need, I said yes and no to the question, remember? Do I need to write a will? Is it fard? Yes and no. Here's the thing, another caveat. I write a will today. My mom is alive, she gets 1/6. Wife gets 1/8. The rest is distributed amongst my 4 children. I write the will today, it's notarized. Then my mom, oh boy, she's listening to this. Then my mom dies tomorrow. What happens now? What happens? The will changes. Will needs to change. Right? Because she's no longer in this world. Now what will happen? Now There's no more 1/6. So the will can change. That's my point. It depends. It depends who is alive. Who is alive? Who are the heirs when this person dies? Anyhow, moving on. The most common question that comes, or scenario, is that the husband, when he wants to make sure that his wife has a roof over her head before he leaves this world. He wants to make sure that she has a house, she has a safe place to stay after he is gone. What to do? What to do? Because according to the Quranic shares, her share is only 1/8, and the rest will be distributed amongst the children. Wife's share is 1/8, not the whole entire house. There's ways to do it. One of the ways to do it is that the husband gives the house as a gift to his wife during his lifetime, before maradul maut, before death, illness. So he says to his wife, dear wife, you have done such a good job at raising the kids, alhamdulillah, you have done their tarbiyah so well, I am gifting you this house. And two conditions for a gift. She has to accept, what a lovely gift, thank you, I accept, and you have to give her possession of the gift. Okay, that is also a requirement in Islam. If I give you this phone, Brother Nasser, this phone is a gift. And then he takes out his hand, but then I put it back in my pocket. Is that a gift? No, what happened? It's a gift. This is a gift for you. A gift requires two things. Number one, he has to accept the gift, and number two, he has to take possession of the gift. It's a little different than buying and selling. So, because the wife lives in the house, she has possession of the house, so that can happen. If he was to gift the house to a son, and the son is not living there, it's a little bit complicated. But with the wife, it's a cut and dry. But we have a problem here. Let's say he gives the house as a gift to his wife. And she accepts, she has possession, thinking that he is going to die first. But let's say she dies first. Houston, we have a problem. Because now she owned 100% of the house, correct? And she died. Now, how much is his share? Now this house will be divided according to Quranic shares. So how much is his share? His share is only 1/4, 25%, the husband. And the children own 75% of the house. So, but there are ways. As I said, this is a lengthy topic. The point is that we need to understand both the Islamic angle, concept, the teachings of Islam, and also the legal. Okay, it's not just sufficient enough to understand the Islamic portion of it without understanding the legal aspect of it. So that's why we have a program 1 week from today, Friday, downstairs in our multi-purpose hall, where an attorney will be discussing his specialty, his expertise is wills and trust. And if you have any questions, you can talk to him about wills and trust. That is, inshallah, next Friday at 7:30. Jazakumullah khair. Please pray your sunnah.